Today, we're diving into India's 2025-26 economic survey, and it tells this absolutely remarkable story. A nation hitting its stride, achieving incredible success right at the moment the world economy is becoming more chaotic than ever before.
And this image of India literally woven from the threads of global trade, it just perfectly captures the central puzzle we're going to unpack in this explainer.
So let's get into it. The survey kicks things off with this powerful idea it calls the paradox of 2025. And honestly, it sets the stage for everything else.
So what is the paradox? It's this. Just as India's economy is finally firing on all cylinders, the global rules of the game, the very rules that used to reward that kind of success, are being completely rewritten.
In this slide, it just lays out the conflict perfectly. On one side, you have this incredibly strong, booming domestic economy. And on the other, you have a global environment that's getting more broken, more unpredictable by the day.
To really get our heads around this, we have to look at both sides of the coin. So let's start with the good news, and that is the sheer power of India's domestic economy right now.
The number that just jumps off the page is 7.4%. That's the projected real GDP growth, making India the fastest growing major economy in the world for the fourth year in a row. Just think about that.
And this isn't just a flash in the pan. This growth is built on some really solid foundations. We're talking strong consumer demand, inflation that's under control, and even credit agencies like S&P are giving their stamp of approval with multiple upgrades.
But, like we said, all this amazing domestic success, well, it's not happening in a bubble. It's happening in a world that is fundamentally shifting under our feet.
The survey puts it really well. It basically says that the old playbook, stable, open trade, predictable rules, that era is fading away. It's being replaced by strategic competition and a whole lot of uncertainty.
What this means in practice is that major economic powers, like the United States, are now using trade policy as a political weapon. And that, of course, creates friction for everybody else.
And this gives you such a stark picture of the global imbalance. On the left, you've got the world's biggest lenders, and on the right, the biggest borrowers.
Now, get this. The world's largest economy, the U.S., is also its largest debtor, by a massive margin. India, for its part, is the 11th largest debtor. And this highlights a really critical point. India depends on foreign capital to help fuel its growth. So, if that global investment climate turns sour, that roaring economic engine we just talked about, it could be in for a rough ride.
Okay, so given this pretty fragile global environment, what could the future actually look like? Well, the survey lays out 3 possible scenarios for the world in 2026. And what is so striking here is that there's an 80 to 90% chance of significant global disorder. Think about that. Even the best case scenario is called managed disorder, which basically means constant firefighting. And that vulnerability we just talked about, that dependence on foreign capital, well, that's the single biggest risk for India across all 3 of these pretty grim scenarios. A sudden stop in those capital flows is the common threat that links them all.
So the big question is, how does India even begin to navigate this treacherous new world? Well, the strategy is all about playing the long game.
The goal is really twofold. First, you build up strategic resilience. That means creating buffers to absorb shocks. But second, and this is key, you aim for strategic indispensability. You become so deeply integrated into high-tech global supply chains that the world economy literally can't function without you. So this isn't about playing defense and just reacting to risks. It's about going on offense, actively building an economy that's more competitive, more resilient, and ultimately more influential on the world stage.
And the survey wraps all this up with this really powerful metaphor, which I think just perfectly captures the scale of the challenge. It's about having the endurance for a marathon, but the urgency of a sprint.
And that really brings us to the crucial question, not just for India, but for the entire global economy. In a world that is breaking apart, can any amount of domestic strength and clever planning truly insulate a nation from global chaos? It's a question we're all going to be watching the answer to. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.